Legion, assemble before me at once.
Ophiuchus, this dream is collapsing. What are you doing here?
The Armorous is missing. Who has moved the boy?
It was Rhiannon and her coven. The witches have learned about your so-called double cross. We know what you have done, and the witches have declared war upon you, Ophiuchus.
What? What are you talking about? I have domain over all. I am your god. No one declares war upon me.
The witches disagree. They did what you couldn't. They located and executed the last 11 armors, but you somehow knew where the 12th one was. You knew who was next in line for this power.
Because I am supreme. I know all.
No. You and your father were never, and will never, be supreme. He fell from great heights, just to create you, a failure. Just like his father. Mirror images of one another.
You watch your words, Legion.
Ophiuchus, please. The world has changed. The humans are waking up out of the sea. You and your father have cast it upon them. The world can see you, and your spell is collapsing all over the face of the earth. Run. Run far away before the witches find you. And when they do,
I will never run. I am a god.
The witches have found the Tomb of Ares, one of the gods you helped the Armorous in prison. Rhiannon will find the last armors and use him to open the sea.
No, I will find the boy.
Even if you find the boy, the witches will kill you, Ophiuchus. They will find your father and slay him too. But the power has shifted. You will lose it.
No, Legion. You have betrayed me. You have done wrong. What is happening here? I will find the last Armorous and restore order. I run the world, no one else. I will fix this, all of this, because I am Supreme Ruler. I am their god.
What I'm about to tell you may be hard for you to believe or comprehend, but no matter what I say or what you choose to believe, you are the new energy Armorous now Cytean, the bearer of energy, energy that is seen and unseen. You cannot escape this, nephew. This is your destiny through our bloodline, and you are next in line to follow the path.
I have finally found you. What has that witch done to you? Cytean, wake up. You need to wake up now. I am going to get us out of here, but we must make haste. Come on, Cytean. I cannot leave you here like this. I need you to wake up, please. I cannot do this without you. I need you. I can't lose you too. Now wake up, or else we both will be stuck here forever. I know I wasn't there for you before, but I am here now. Cytean,
Okeem, how did you get here? What is happening? And why am I wearing this?
I will explain later, but we need to get out of here right now. There is a portal waiting for us between Cirrus A and Cirrus B. It won't hold for long, but it will get us back home.
So that witch Rhiannon kept up her end of the bargain after all. There you are, Magnus Amorous, Mr. 13. We meet again. How long has it been since? A few 100,000 years, has it?
Don't waste your words. You will never stop us. You know that.
Oh, I will kill you all. Now that the old 12 armors are now dead, the new 12 will die off quickly. My witches will find, locate, and slaughter them all. As you can see, the energy armorist was a gift from his best friend, Rhiannon. She gave him to me for power and prestige. Weak-mindedness. All you humans are worthless to me now. Now that I am free again, I will take the world by force, and I will kill everyone and everything.
Saitian, are you alright?
What is happening? I am so confused. Rhiannon, you? What are you? What am I? What is all of this? Why me?
Saitian, the world is in danger right now. I will explain everything to you later, but right now, we cannot allow that poison to hit the Earth. We need to get to the portal and seal off the realms. We cannot allow Ophiuchus to escape.
But he's here already.
Not fully. He is still stuck in his prison. He is slowly trying to escape, but we can seal the portal and still stop him. We must hurry. Hurry, Saitian. Please hurry. We made it back.
It's amazing.
We are home. But our journey has just begun, Saitian. We have to get back to the university and stop Rhiannon. She might be your best friend, but she is our enemy now. She tried to kill you, and if I didn't find you when I did, you would have died, Saitian.
Welcome to my world now, boys. I hope you enjoy. I made a few changes.